Welcome to the OIC, otherwise known as the Omnipresent Information Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Peterson.
And I'm the co-host, Noah Hansen. The Omnipresent Information Connection Podcast is all about your world and your unique walk on this path called life. We present fascinating, life-changing information from around the world that has been validated. We also authenticate the information by providing you with links to where you can find out more about what we are talking about on our show. This podcast includes historically accurate, genuine facts that have helped shape our daily lives into what they are today. We've got another episode on values for you, and this episode has to do with family values. If you remember in the last episode, we talked about the value of truth, which Kevin and I started with that episode because we hold that in such high esteem. And we believe that if you have the value of truth, if you know the value of truth, then all these other values that we'll be talking about in this and later episodes sort of will fit into that category, or that category of the value of truth will be important to these other values. So I'm just going to read off a little thing that I wrote about family values themselves. And I say, our family is who starts our life path. Our life path begins with our family, and it ends with our family. In many cases, the only people who will be there both when we are born and when we die is our direct family. We get our moral code, a large portion of our personality, and our worldviews based on how our family, especially what our parents have raised us to believe and to adopt. So family values obviously are genuinely important in everyone's life, I would say. Even people who don't have a great direct family relationship, because you still are brought up by them, in most cases.
In most cases.
Right.
And hello, listeners. So, family values is a very strong point in my life, because it's what helped me to become who I am today. Now, I have heard that people that have had a very negative experience have had positive outcomes, because they saw everything negative that had happened in their lifetime and was able to intelligently to be able to reshape and restructure their family values to be able to have a better family dynamic.
Love that. That's wonderful. That's how you can get a positive truth, a positive experience out of a sort of negative predisposition in our families.
Correct, because you have to understand, well, growing up is that you can't control your parents per se. You can't really control who your parents are.
Right. And
you can't control your living environment because of your age. Mm-hmm. And, there's laws against, being able to live with other people, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But the bottom line is that if you were able to look at it through a new way of viewing, you'd be able to then say, okay, well, when I am old enough to be able to leave the home, I can then be able to transition my family values to something more substantial, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, to the manner that I see fit.
Right. Adopt them for your own future family, too.
Absolutely. Instead of inheriting family values that didn't feed your soul well.
Yes, indeed. Love that. Great points. I know you have a lot more to say than that, though. Let's dig in.
Okay. Well, first is, what are some good family values? And so I have a small list, and of course it gets pretty extensive, but let's just take the short list. And common values include honesty, balance, caring, generosity, health, humor, learning, wisdom, leadership, and compassion.
Don't be afraid to play that back, listeners.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
Then I'll go over it again. Common values include honesty, which that's what this whole podcast is. It's about authenticated truth.
That's right.
Balance, being able to bring you a fair and balanced perspective, not only on the information, but on how to apply it in your everyday life.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Caring, being able to personally show you that we have the value system in place to be able to make your life a caring value for each and every day. Then generosity, about giving back to the community, giving back to all the people that value the content that we give them on a daily basis.
Right.
Health, we talk about that in our podcast too, mentally, physical, and spiritual health and well-being.
That's right. All important.
Yeah, and here's a really big one, humor. Sometimes we've just got to be able to kind of laugh and make fun of ourselves due to the day-to-day experiences that happen in our life. And a good way to be able to brush off bad experiences is to somewhat laugh about it, or to be able to find a humorous element instead of having to be able to cry.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the learning aspect of our podcast, to where we can be able to learn new ways to be able to grow and develop the values and the authenticated truth to be able to enhance your life on a daily basis. And then you've got the wisdom. Once teaching, training, motivating, directing, and guiding, then you have the wisdom that you can give yourself a hand, and that's where I clap, to where you can then be able to teach other people. That's in the next category of leadership, right? And then with leadership, you can be able to then have compassion for other people that were once in that same position that you were in. And then from there, when you think about your family, as you consider values such as cooperation, financial stability, humility, and patience, try thinking about the values in terms of categories. And when you do, it just makes good sense.
So all these different categories have a lot to do with family values and the values on this podcast. And I love that, because we want our podcast to feel like family.
Right.
We want the entire community outreach program that we're doing to feel like family.
Absolutely. And so in order to be able to give you the most enriched value that we can, it is through the power of authenticated information.
Yes, and that makes people feel like family when they get to share in something so powerful.
Well, not only that, not only to be able to share the content, but to be able to learn from the content, to be able to grow as a person with the content, and to be able to see the physical examples being resonated because of it, right?
That's right.
So you've got all these family dynamics of value that help to be able to inspire, motivate, uplift, to be able to encourage other people to be able to do the same thing. And when it's so authentic and when it's so spot on with the truth, it's so easy to be able to apply and do. We as human beings, and I'll be the first to admit, that we often create our own self-destructive cycles.
Oh, yeah.
Prohibiting ourselves from being able to live our best life today.
That's right.
So when we get into that pattern or conditioning, we have to look at the environment, whether it's TV, whether it's radio, whether it's people. You got to be able to figure out what is the devaluing value within that value to be able to then restore back in you the authenticated value that God wanted you to have in the first place.
Yes. You know, I'm going to reflect on the generosity aspect of those categories, because I think that's critical in a family environment, because you have to understand that other people's suffering don't have to be your own, and that people do wrong things, but it's not always personal, and you shouldn't make it personal.
Correct.
Now, the Bible is so intensely clear about how we should love our enemies. I mean, it says that, quote, word for word, love your enemies, but it doesn't say that you have to love everything that they do. It doesn't mean that you have to accept everything that they are choosing to manifest. So when we are having issues with people that are near and dear to us, like our family, then we have to sort of be the reflection factor to be able to understand where this might be coming from, where this suffering that they are putting upon their family is actually coming from, and still love them and still respect them, but not respect everything that they do, not respect every choice that they make.
Absolutely.
And be that guidance for them. Be the one who rises above.
Yeah, and of course you got the Bible verses that talk about family love, family value.
Oh yeah, All sorts of Bible verses.
One being, husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, Ephesians 5:25. Love is patient, love is kind. You remember that one, right?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let love be genuine. We love because he first loved us. So now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, but the greatest of these is love. Right? So, understand this, listeners, is that you've got to be able to have the right intent behind the value in order for it to be valuable.
Mm-hmm. I think you missed a Bible verse there. It's one of the 10 Commandments.
Well, yes, I was waiting for you to be able to say that one.
There you go.
Right? So why don't you go ahead and let the listeners...
Yes, respect thy mother and thy father.
Absolutely.
Very simple. Very simple. And like I said, you don't have to agree with every choice that they make, every rule that they place upon you, but respect them. They're your parents. Respect them. They birthed you into this world, and it was God appointed, I believe.
Yes, they have given you the life energy and the life substance to be able to create a life of your own.
Mm-hmm. And the Bible also talks about how the blood is the life of the body. And so people who you share similar blood with, who you're blood related to, does have value.
Mm-hmm.
It's not meaningless.
Absolutely. So, in being able to restore the family values, and when I was talking about these different categories, is that you need to be able to mentally, physically, and spiritually be able to categorize the values that matter most to you and what you're trying to resonate and what you're trying to be able to get out of life. And when speaking to other people and to be able to see where they have come from, is that you can be able to find relatability issues or situations that you both have been through to be able to come up with a harmonious agreement of value to be able to restore in each other as well as other people. And it's important that when you are trying to restore these family values is that you want to be able to be a daily example setter. You want to be able to resonate what you're trying to be able to actually manifest in the flesh.
Yes, that's important for whatever it is you are wanting to bring about, for sure.
Right. And then you need to be able to track your value system. Is that I track on a dream board every week as far as my strengths and my weaknesses, what I need to improve on, what I need to be able to expand on, what I need to be able to grow on, and then what I need to be able to then, as the end all be all, the final conclusion to whatever it is that I was working on and the day that I completed it. And it should be a day of celebration when you get to that value because you are restoring the value within it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that can help you have a everyday celebration if you're meeting like tiny goals on that dream board, for sure.
Absolutely. And that's where family values comes in, is that whether it's a brother or sister, whether it's a mom and dad, there's going to be someone in your family that you do value and that you do listen to and that you do seek advice from. And you need to be able to return that value by being the value that they're teaching or installing or instructing you to become, right?
That's right.
And when you do, it is a beautiful gift because family values, family matters.
Mm-hmm. It takes a humble spirit to be able to accept things that another person's teaching you.
Absolutely. And then the second thing is an open heart to be able to not take things so personally and so intimately, like it's an attack against your character. And then third is that you need to be able to emotionally be complete to be able to receive the gift in the first place.
Yeah, no doubt about that, because that's the power of truth. What we went over is being able to exchange worldviews and exchange ideas and be able to accept truth for truth when it is presented to you, and to sort of be done away with old patterns that you found out turned out to be false.
Absolutely. So if you like these teachings, if you like these mentoring sessions, if you like this podcast, like and share it. So, in closing, in order to be able to restore or to be able to bring value into something, you need to be the living example of what you're trying to emulate and resonate to another living soul. And when you do, that becomes family. And when you become family, that's where the value starts and ends. And with this podcast, you can be able to then like it and share it with those that you find value in, with those you value, and those that find value within it.
Indeed. And I just want to make the point in closing myself that your family doesn't have to all be blood. You know, if you're a child who's been adopted out there, don't think that I'm sort of putting down or making less your parents' relationship with you. Because as we've talked about in other podcasts, we rub off on each other. Ways of being, our personality, our worldviews all change based on the people we surround ourselves with. So they are just as critically important to your life and to your upbringing as any blood parent out there.
Yeah, that's environmental value.
Mm-hmm. And in this day and age, many people are creating sort of families with non-blood related people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all well and good. And I think that is also very important because it's who you're surrounding yourself with. But your blood family or the family that raised you, your upbringing, that has more to do with your entire life than the families you may integrate down the line. Because as we know from psychology, many aspects of ourselves are based upon our childhood upbringing.
Absolutely. And then it's what we had watched, whether it be the perverted cartoons from
Right.
Disney,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be, there's so many different elements that make us who we are today.
Mm-hmm. And that's why parenting's so important.
Mm-hmm.
Even as a young baby, they can pick up subtleties from the television that they're watching.
Right. And if you've gotten into the knowing about womb technology, we now know that we can be able to learn in the womb, not only ABCs 1, 2, 3s, but we can be able to learn other things as far as value without even knowing what the word value means. And so when you're then born, you are then already born with embedded values that make you who you are today.
Yes, and I think we can put some links in the description for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be an interesting read for you who want to follow up on that. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
And please make sure that you go to our Patreon page and pay it forward. Give a gift of value that you can be able to resonate with. Every dollar that's ever spent or being able to be given to our podcasting allows us to be able to pay it forward to our communities, our families, our friends, and those other people that we value through different programs that we have established on and offline.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, listeners.
This has been another life-enhancing, authenticated podcast aired by the OIC and brought to you by the faithful OIC sponsors and contributors. Please tune in every week and subscribe to our podcast. And while you're there, explore our website with all the posts, videos, and podcasts that we have created with you in mind. While you're on the journey through our website, you will see our Patreon page where you can become a faithful contributor yourself with the freedom to be a part of our team today. Thank you.